People who worked in restaurants. What was the worst customer that you had to deal with? Number 1. I worked in Domino's. I had a guy throw a handful of pennies at me while laughing. The 30-odd cents was my tip. He was mad when I turned around and walked away without picking any of them up. His exact words were, "Oh my money not good enough for you? Fine, I'll never order Domino's again." I've never had a customer fire themselves like that before. It was great. Number 2. I used to work in a bar that sold very old booze. A drunk man tried to impress his friends by chugging from a bottle of Amaro from the early 60s. He had to pay for the whole thing since his lips touched it and it was useless. Cost him around $800. Number 3. Barista here. Had a guy that regularly came in and ordered a complicated drink. He always finished the order by asking for a finger swirl in the drink. If you gave him a confused look, he would say, "Well, how else am I gonna taste you?" He was the worst. Number 4. Worked in a popular restaurant for a while. We usually have quite a long wait, 30-40 minute waits, during dinner service, and people are told by the host about this. There was this lady that got fed up with the wait after 10 minutes. She stormed into the restaurant, stood next to a table of 4 people, and literally asked them, "Are you guys done? We've been waiting for a long time now and we'd like to have the table if you guys are just chatting." Was completely mind blown how people are able not to give an F and pull something like this in public. Number 5. Busy Friday night. Hey, it's going to be a 15-minute wait for a table. Host proceeds to seat people who were there first. But they see a dirty table, so the host is obviously terrible at their job and goes sit at it, asking the first person they see to clean it for them while demanding drinks. Number 6. Way back in the 80s, I worked in a restaurant that was a favorite of a celebrity chef of those days, Jeff Smith, the frugal gourmet. Never seen a bigger asshat than this guy. Literally make our service cry. Nothing was ever right. He was beyond rude and condescending, yet he kept coming back. He had a reputation of being a jerk off camera. Eventually, he was disgraced by being outed as a child predator and was quickly forgotten by all. Our restaurant was a good place. Another celebrity chef of the time, Graham Kerr, the galloping gourmet, was always a pleasure to have visit. Number 7. Our bar was having a private party. A drunk dude walks in and orders a drink. I knew he wasn't with the party based on his attire and that he came in every so often. I told him I couldn't get him a drink. He lost his mind, told him to F off and then wanted to fight me. On his way out, he yelled that we should put up signs as he walked by the signs on the door saying we were closed for a private event. He came in the next day sober and apologized. Number 8. After a wedding reception ended at our facility, we were cleaning and I began the cleaning process on our espresso machine. The party was over almost half an hour already. The process takes 12 minutes. People were still there as the party slowly lit out and the father of the bride asks me for an espresso. I told him I could get it to him as we have a strict policy of always trying to satisfy a guest's needs, but the machine was cleaning and it would be done in about 10 minutes. He begins ranting about how much he paid for the wedding and stormed to our banquet manager and told him I refused to make it for him. Manager is a d-bag and starts ripping me in front of the guy. I show both of them that the machine is just finishing the cleaning process and it was impossible to make it beforehand. I got suspended for 2 weeks. Number 9. A lady from the real estate agency next door ordered a chicken box and then proceeded to drive an hour to her next showing in the middle of the summer where it probably sat right in front of her AC unit in the passenger seat. Surprise, surprise, food gets cold when left in the cold. Who knew? Upon the shocking discovery that food doesn't stay warm, she called us to scream at my boss that we tried to kill her. Because he's a spineless pushover in the summer, he agreed to give her a new free meal when she came back. She came to get her free food and things didn't improve. One of our chefs came to collect her cold food. While still in front of the window, she opened the box and fished out the uneaten biscuit. She threw the rest away, but walked away with the bread. I presume she meant to eat it, but she went about it all wrong. She started screaming about how we were recycling food, that she was good friends with the health inspector, that she was going to see us in court. The histrionics brought my boss out of his office, and after chewing out the idiot chef, he tried to smooth things over. I don't remember much. We were all busy, and since he'd taken over the drive-thru, I hopped onto another task. She wouldn't move forward and the line was piling up. My boss was starting to get annoyed. They had stopped talking to each other. Her hot, fresh meal is up, and he goes to hand deliver it and tell her to get the F out of the line. I'm not entirely sure, as I was halfway across the store trying to make drinks. All I remember is a surprised gasp from our food runner and looking up to see a box of steaming hot chicken came sailing through the window and scatter across the front of the house. My boss had barely stepped back in time. We could only stare as the crazy lady roared out of the parking lot, and he snapped at the first person stupid enough to still be making eye contact to clean it up. Number 10. Bartending in a restaurant a few years ago. There was a private party and one of the guests asked me to plug in his iPhone to listen to a song. No big deal. I did it and he tipped me $20. He left his phone behind the bar and got wasted. When he was leaving, I said, "Sir, don't forget about your phone." He threw a beer on me and told me to leave him the F alone and told me to get a real job. Guess who got to keep a nice new iPhone? Number 11. Fast food near high school. The absolute worst were the moms. Had one who came in weekly and screamed about wrong orders or whatever complaint she could dream up so she could get free food for her entire family. Then you get the loser douches who think harassing employees is funny. The absolute worst customer was the owner of the franchise. He'd walk in, test employees, and then fire someone for some issue so minor it was likely just made up. Number 12. I had a guy that was a germaphobe and had really bad OCD. He came through before and my coworker didn't want to deal with him. So I went through the drive-through window after washing my hands. I cashed out the order that was on screen and he reluctantly handed over his card. I gave him the coffee that I cashed him out for. He started yelling at me saying that it was wrong. Apparently, the person that took the order forgot to type it in. Unfortunate, but it happens. He started yelling at the coworker that didn't want to take his order at the window. So, instead of just saying that it was the wrong order, getting refunded and being on his way, he stayed in the driveway for 20 minutes telling my coworker that she was stupid and unprofessional and was unfit to be a supervisor. He kept demanding that we get the phone number of our franchise owner, but apparently the number was wrong and he kept yelling at us. But when we came back to the window after 20 minutes of this, he left. My supervisor went into the back to cry. I felt so bad for her. She's the sweetest person. Fast forward, less than a month later, he called the store to apologize and the manager made sure that my coworker never dealt with him again, but he could come in as long as he didn't make a scene. He told the manager that his therapist told him he should apologize. He spent a combined total of 3 hours on the phone with the manager where he apologized and also blamed us for making him late to his appointment that day. And at the end of the phone call, he asked if we were hiring. Number 13. I worked at a bakery for 2 years and I had to deal with honestly the most heinous and rude customers ever. I've worked in the food service industry my whole life and lived in Toronto up until 3 years ago, and I have never dealt with such entitlement. Anyways, one day one of our staff members quit by text message 5 minutes before her shift and 30 minutes before we were set to open at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. We were hard-pressed finding someone to cover, so I was alone until a front-of-house person was able to come in about an hour later. I had one of the kitchen staff helping me, and all I could do was grab things and bag them as they weren't trained on cash or coffee. So here I am running around trying to help customers, make coffees, ring people through, and clearly stressed. This douchebag man was clearly annoyed that he had to wait, huffing and puffing, and eventually loudly exclaimed, "F this, I'm not effing waiting for this shit," and proceeded to throw his bagged muffin at my head and storm out. I legit almost chased him down. I was livid. Customers are shit. LOL. Number 14. I used to manage a restaurant and hated those couple of times in 5 years of my working there when some entitled customers left without paying because the waitresses didn't come to pick up my money. That's a piece of shit move and a poor excuse when all you need is to grab a waitress's attention by simply talking. Once, it was a family of 4 who left the restaurant during a busy evening and we realized that the bill wasn't paid for after some 10 minutes had passed. I checked the cameras and saw the father taking the bill, putting the money in, sitting there for just 3 or 4 minutes, looking around and taking the money back and leaving with the whole family. Lucky our owner was a great guy and told me to simply ban the effer and his family. and to my surprise, that POS came back with friends on a busy evening in a couple months. I was very excited watching his face being embarrassed in front of his friends and customers sitting outside when I told him that he is banned, and when his wife started to get upset, I told them I remembered them and told them the whole story with me checking the cameras and seeing him taking the money back and all. Number 15. A customer ordered one of our daily specials and didn't like it, so instead of complaining to me about the food and letting me offer something else, she complained to my manager about me. This was May of last year. In August of last year, turns out she was one of my college professors for the semester, teaching a management course. She recognized me the first day, but I played it off like I didn't know her. Edit. She did not complain about me to my manager in front of me. I left to go work on an event in a different building, and she left a sticky note for me after talking to my boss. I don't know what the sticky note said since I didn't bother to read it. Number 16. I'll never understand why people make their dislike for a restaurant's food into a bizarre personal grudge against the server. I worked at a place that had good food except for this one dish, steak frites. It was a small hanger steak cut into strips, served with fries. That's it. The steak was always tough, under-seasoned, and wasn't a lot of food for the money. One day, a guy asked me for some recommendations, so I made a couple. He apparently wasn't impressed by my suggestions, so he asked me about the steak frites and said explicitly that I wouldn't recommend it. So, that's what he ordered. After taking a couple of bites, he pushed the plate away, then asked me to call over the manager. He then complained to the manager, not directly about the food, but about me for giving him an awful recommendation. Number 17. I worked at a Vietnamese restaurant back in high school, and I had a Viet family come in to eat. They gave me a snobby vibe the entire time, especially after I told them I couldn't speak Vietnamese. They ordered regular pho, but asked for no cilantro, so I rang the order in with no cilantro. It came out with cilantro in it, and I told the kitchen what the family asked. The kitchen told me they couldn't do anything about it, so I told my manager, and they told me to ask the family if they still wanted it. Family said yes, so I brought it out, and they took out the cilantro and ate the entire thing. At the end of the meal, they spoke to the owner and complained how I got their order completely wrong, got the food for free, and got their bill taken out of my pay. The owner told me I should have removed the cilantro myself. Shitty management, shitty customer.
What was your favorite story? Let me know in the comments or share your own. Like and subscribe, and catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.